Hello, awesome, amazing people. I'm Darren Southam and I'm a filmmaker. I want to start off this video by making you a promise that by the end of the video you will know has been fulfilled. And that promise is this will be the most authentic and different video you will watch today. 90% of the people on the internet watch the first 3 to 10 seconds of any given video before clicking away. If this tells you anything about the distracted, information overloaded ADD era in which we live, it is this: that this modern world is filled with human beings who think they're pretty smart, but in reality are quite ignorant as to real things, real truth, and real people. I want to tell you the reasons I'm a filmmaker. One, because I love filmmaking. And two, because motion pictures are the single most powerful medium of influence in our world today, and I desire, more than anything, to influence our world with good, positive, uplifting, and inspiring, genuinely epic storytelling that changes people. Thomas Edison said in the early 20th century, "Whoever controls the motion picture industry controls the most powerful medium of influence over the people." This, besides my passion for the art, is the reason I'm a filmmaker. Now, full disclosure, I am currently leading the movement for the 6th highest crowd-funded media project of all time. That project is called Reign of Judges, and it's the first North American Book of Mormon war epic set in the pre-Columbian New World ever to be attempted in history. Most people don't know the Book of Mormon is the 4th most influential book in America. It also is estimated that over 140 million Books of Mormon have been sold and potentially 300 million copies floating around in circulation. This puts the book's total numbers in the same ballparks as Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings, and even Tale of Two Cities. We have produced a 14-minute pilot short film with prominent Hollywood cast and crew, which you can stream instantly on our website, rainmovie.com. Over the past year, this pilot short film has helped us raise over $2.6 million from over 11,000 backers. If we reach at least 20 million before the end of 2019, we will be able to access the funds and produce the first full-length Book of Mormon war epic in history. We need some honest truth about numbers. We have raised an estimated total of $2.6 million, and this is the truth. We have already done 2 separate Kickstarters for this project thus far, which provide fully legitimate track record of fulfilling campaign promises. So our total number raised reflects the gross amounts raised from these Kickstarters as well as all funds raised to date. This includes equity or investment funds, as well as product sales and donations. So this thorough explanation of the total amount raised will give you context for what follows. And I do apologize for the length of this explanation, but it is absolutely necessary due to what is at stake and because it is a story that must be heard to be believed. What follows could appropriately be called our campaign's October surprise. Our 2 largest investors to date have been one for $500,000, $500,000, and one for $750,000, $750,000. We have terms for large investors that allow for what is called a delayed deposit. This means that they can deposit a small non-refundable amount at the time of signing, earnest money, 15% in this case, and the rest by November 1st, 2019. This delayed deposit was offered primarily to benefit our investors. Our $500,000 investor had opted for the delayed deposit. So they deposited 15%, $75,000 of non-refundable earnest money into our holding account at the time of signing their subscription agreement, and opted to deposit the remaining $425,000 November 1st this year. Now, via our legal and binding subscription agreement, which was signed, as well as a signed delayed deposit rider, this particular investor was legally obligated to tender the remaining $425,000 by November 1st, regardless of where our fundraising numbers were at. The failure to do so would mean that they would forfeit their 15% deposit entirely. That was the deal. If we do not reach at least 20 million by the end of 2019, all investor funds, not donations or product sales, all investments would be refunded to our respective investors. So for delayed deposit investors, this means they would need to tender their full amount for their investment by November 1st. And if we failed to reach 20 million minimum by the end of the year, we would then turn around and refund their entire investment. So we would hold their entire investment for like 2 months in the event of failure to reach our minimum goal. So in this context, I reached out to our $500,000 investor a couple weeks ago, through a series of texts, it became very clear to me that one, since we were only at 2.6 million in funds, total funds raised, this investor felt justified to not deposit the remaining 85% by November 1st, as previously agreed upon, thus intending to breach our agreement. The legal ramifications of this investor's actions would cause the investor to forfeit their entire 15% deposit to cover damages, i.e. the damages to the integrity of the Reign of Judges full feature campaign by going public with their entire investment amount. However, rather than hold them to a contract they clearly intended to breach, rather than take them to court, rather than retain their deposit for damages, as we had full right to do, which damages I and this campaign now will face publicly while this investor remains in quiet safety of anonymity, rather than do any of these things that are within our legal rights to do so, things which I would do if all I cared about was swindling people from their money. Rather than do any of these things, I felt overwhelmingly impressed to do precisely the opposite. I said to this investor, and I quote from my text, "If you have lost faith in this project, I would prefer to refund your investment right away." To which they responded, and I quote, "Darren, I do sincerely wish you success on your project, but yes, we would request a refund on the investment." So, in demonstration of the integrity of this movement, we have refunded this investor all of their non-refundable deposit and released them entirely from their subscription obligations. With this context provided, I'm sure you are feeling now what I felt in that moment. Now, on to our $750,000 investor. This investor had opted to deposit the full amount without a delayed deposit agreement, and this situation was far more tricky. Important additional context is that we had 33 total investors, and none of them had ever failed to complete their deposits after signing their subscription agreements. It was our experience that it would take 30 to 90 days, sometimes even longer, for investment funds to actually be deposited. So we had one self-directed IRA, for example, that took over 6 months to be deposited. And so it was our practice to be very flexible on deposit timeframes, but we also would go public with investments the moment we had a signed legally binding subscription agreement. This was the case with our $750,000 investor. We waited several weeks after the investor verbally confirmed their investment until we actually had a signed subscription agreement. Once we had this in hand, we went public with the number, as was our policy. Within 30 days of doing so, it became apparent there was a problem. This investor had signed the subscription agreement without the knowledge of their spouse, because the investor had their own funds independent of their spouse. The signing spouse fully intended to tender the funds to our campaign. It quickly became apparent, however, that the other spouse was not allowing the investment to be tendered. Now, in retrospect, I accept full responsibility for trusting a person in their word, given the fact that I had a fully executed subscription agreement in my hand, based on what I was told concerning their funds. And in further retrospect, I would not have accepted this investment at all. But notwithstanding, I proceeded to tell the investor, having already gone public with their investment, that I did not feel comfortable leaving their investment as part of our public number, unless they intended to fulfill their contractual commitment. As strange as it is to recount, the investor implored me to keep their investment alive and assured me that they would find a way to complete the deposit. About 60 days later, on April 25th, at about 11:02 a.m., the investor assured me via a recorded Marco Polo video that both spouses were now on board, and I quote from the video, quote, "Still totally on board on the 6th of May. We'll get everything taken care of with the financial stuff, aka the deposit. So by the second week of May, the money will be in your account, and we're just going to do the whole lump sum. We're just going to do all of it." The second week of May came and went with no deposit. Now, we had spoken with our legal counsel as soon as we knew something was wrong, and we discovered that we, the producers, actually can't legally withdraw a signed subscription agreement without their mutual consent. So here we are in this precarious situation where we wanted to be transparent about our public number, but our hands were tied because the investor in question was adamantly insisting that they would fulfill their commitment. I made it immediately clear that we had absolutely no intent whatsoever of suing anyone, but just wanted them to make a decision to fulfill their commitment or cancel their subscription so that we could move on. This, however, call it FOMO, call it whatever, strangely seemed to make them all the more interested in proceeding with their investment deposit. As of today, I have written this investor, and I quote, "I have made the executive decision to cancel your subscription. Please know we will not pursue anything legally whatsoever. This project is not about money or fame. It is about the truth and being honest. But the time has come to cancel your subscription. Thank you for your good intentions, and I wish you well. There will be a cancellation form that will need your signature, and I would greatly appreciate if you would sign it promptly." Since those events unfolded, I felt impressed, we're almost done here, to ask our remaining 31 investors if any of them would also like to withdraw their investments early, preferring to only have investors who have full faith in our efforts. I'm happy to report all but one of our 30 remaining investors have chosen to stand behind us and fully support our efforts to produce the first full-length Book of Mormon war epic in history. As such, we respectfully and earnestly put the question to you, our supporters, or anyone considering supporting our efforts. Will you stand with us? In spite of everything, we remain ever committed to see this through to the end, and we have faith that the much-needed miracle of full funding will come when it is supposed to. We hope it comes before our fundraising deadline of December 31st, 2019. For any watching this video who are blessed with earth's abundance, I ask you sincerely to consider helping fund Reign of Judges. Consider what we have been through and the integrity of how we have responded. Consider being a hero to over 11,000 supporters of this movement by funding the first Book of Mormon war epic in history.